All right, guys, welcome to episode 6 here with Strictly Sports Podcast. We're glad you guys tuned in. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, be sure to drop us a like or a subscribe on YouTube as well as Facebook and Instagram. We got a lot to get to today. We want to talk about some NFL stuff, some NBA finals, and a little bit of tennis. So we're going to jump right into it with some NFL stuff. A lot of changes have happened over the last few weeks with the initial reports of the Titans catching a lot of COVID cases, and it's kind of put a bit of a wrench into the scheduling for the NFL. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been disappointing. I guess it was somewhat inevitable. Looking at kind of some of the way the NFL's handled it, I don't know, man. I feel like in a sense they're kind of just trying to think it's just going to go away. I was really shocked when they went ahead and played the Pats Chiefs game after Cam tested positive last week, 2 days before that game, or 1 day before the game was supposed to happen, and then they just delay it a day. So, and then, of course, they catch another case the day or two after the game. So, I don't know. I feel like they could have done more by maybe, everybody was talking about putting in a couple extra bye weeks before the season started. And now that things are playing out the way they are, I feel like, I don't know, maybe they should have done that or should have done something. My main issue with the whole thing is how much this is going to affect the credibility of the season. We talked about that with all the sports and the asterisks and how if there's an asterisk, how big of an asterisk. I'm starting to lean towards that asterisk is there and it's getting bigger, which is mainly what concerns me.
Well, as of now, I think that it's not there yet. I mean, even though schedules got switched around, I don't think there's enough yet to where it's fully asterisk. As soon as teams have to change, like they said, Goodell was talking about, everybody need to be flexible and how they aren't throwing the possibility out yet of there being an 18th week, which would push the Super Bowl and everything back, which is kind of not ideal. But I think until you start losing games, then it's going to lose. But then again, it's kind of like what Aggie mentioned in week 1, how some of these players already have a lot of their top stars that are opting out. So I think that, like you said, the asterisk probably is already there, even just from that sense. But I guess we'll have to see. I mean, right now they said there was 8 games, I think, that were rescheduled because of the initial outbreak.
Yeah, and that's early in the season still. I mean, we're only in, finishing up week 5 right now. So, you just gotta hope that things don't get worse. But all it takes is one team like the Titans. The Titans had a huge ripple effect. You know what I mean? It was mainly them that caused all these reschedules of all these games. Yeah, the Patriots had a couple, but it was the Titans who really kind of kicked this ripple effect off of all these reschedules.
Yeah, and that's my thing is right now I think when you consider no fans. You've already had 1 or 2 teams have to play games without the Titans had 1 practice in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I know they had 2 weeks, but none of that was practice time. They had 1 practice essentially from what I'm hearing coming into this game that they're playing as we speak, which they look good tonight. Where they're just finishing that game up and they're gonna win that, and they looked pretty good tonight. But nonetheless, you talk about that, and like Aggie said, this is just the beginning. How much worse is it going to get? To me, we're already at an asterisk with no fans. A couple of teams already have been affected that way. And then with the rescheduling happening, I mean, there's been now 8 games. I mean, a couple of teams' schedules are fully flipped. Bye weeks are being thrown around. That stuff's, I guess, not the end of the world, but teams not being able to prepare fully for a game, and then no fans is already and then this is going to continue happening. This is not the first time the team's going to have to go a week without practicing and coming into their game. So I think the asterisk is already there. It's a small one, but it's getting bigger as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bye weeks are a huge thing. Like just take the Steelers, for example. You guys were supposed to have a bye week, 7 or 8?
Yeah, 7.
Was it, and now all of a sudden you had it in 4. So now you got to play 12 straight games.
13 straight games.
And if you're going to go into the playoffs, going into the playoffs, a long stretch without a break. I mean, and that's not y'all's fault. Y'all don't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? Well, I say y'all.
If they were to go like Juddy said about losing games, if they were to go forfeit, all credibility of the season would be lost.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I personally haven't enjoyed a little bit of the fact that games are being played on different days of the week. I understand the not practicing part of it, and I understand how in a perfect world we want everything to just kind of be they have their days, they know their set schedule, and they can go through it. But I'm not necessarily sitting here putting an asterisk on a whole lot right now. Everybody knew coming into the season that things were probably going to be a little bit up and down. I'm just thankful we're at week 5 and we still have football. So as long as that can continue to happen, I just think it was up to the professionals who are getting paid millions of dollars to be professionals and do whatever they can to be prepared. So I get that not everything's perfect, but I'm not going to sit here and say hey, there's a giant asterisk next to it because everybody still has to play the games. Everybody still has to go out there and compete. And I know they don't have all the practice time and stuff like that, but they're professionals. The Titans didn't practice for maybe like 1 or 2 days in the last 2 weeks, and they just went out there and thumped Buffalo. So,
well,
I mean,
Dan, on a related topic, I know you went into this is not exactly how credible or not it is, but I know you've been enjoying, like you just said, you've been enjoying watching multiple days of the week here. Now we're into it Tuesday, and we got a doubleheader last Monday night. Are you thinking this is something that the NFL is going to maybe drum up a little conversation about trying to? I don't know how they'd make that work with competitive balance football.
I don't think the players
what are you thinking about that, Dan?
Well, I don't necessarily know how they would do with scheduling. Like, I definitely wouldn't want to be in charge of that. That would not. But one of the things that I've enjoyed during, obviously we've all been kind of quarantined. So this kind of stems from like NASCAR. They had to run races in the middle of the week. And it was kind of cool, like on a Wednesday night for them to run a race and like something was on TV to watch. And so just like even tonight on a Tuesday night, we had a good game on TV, and it was like, it's been nice to have something to watch on different days of the week. But I think at the end of the day that it's going to be hard because of gambling, because of fantasy football, because of some of the more outside things. And then just, if you play on a Tuesday night and then you got to play on a Sunday, that's a collectively bargained thing. I don't ever think
the players would have to agree to all that.
Right.
I also think that you're going to have the issue of saturation. I mean, like we have, like me as personally as a fan, like I look so much forward to the weekends. Like I build up my weeks about a big Sunday game, get ready for it. I think if you start looking at every day of the week, like tonight, even though it was a good game, on paper, like I was just in my head, like it doesn't feel right being on a Tuesday, even though this should be a good matchup. I wasn't really that excited to watch it. I was actually over at my parents' house watching a little bit more of the baseball game. But I did before we switch over to some more on the field stuff, I did want to say, Dan, I love how you managed to somehow get NASCAR in there.
Absolutely, dude. I will do anything I can to make a little NASCAR plug.
Well,
you and the other 5 fans that watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Switching to some onto the field stuff with the NFL, I think there's one glaring story that we definitely want to start with, and I'm going to kind of turn it over to our resident Cowboys fan so he can touch on it first.
Yeah, so I mean, we all saw what happened to Dak. Unfortunate for sure. You never want to see someone get hurt like that. And then, just from a Cowboys fan perspective, when it's your quarterback, it's kind of, initially you're like, man, this doesn't look good. I mean, right from the start, you could kind of see from the first replay I saw and just seeing it live, I was like, oh no, like you could just tell right there it was a bad break. It was something really bad. Hopefully, it's not something long-term he can play. Yeah, as Romo said, it's just a cramp. But I think he was trying to be hopeful, but obviously everybody knew it was going to be bad. So, as a team, I was happy that they were able to rally around Andy Dalton. That's the reason you go out and get a veteran quarterback like that. So if your quarterback goes down, you have someone who has been in big games, who has led a team, has been in the playoffs, knows how to do it, is a pro. And he was able to play really well in that game. I thought, initially he had a couple stumbles with a fumble and some things like that, but he got it together and had a couple good drives and ended up, driving us down, and we were able to win the game. Now, given the fact that we're in the NFC East and the NFC East is so terrible, we could definitely, I see, it's very feasible for us to still win the NFC East with Andy Dalton. There is definitely a drop-off between Andy Dalton, from Dak Prescott to Andy Dalton, but honestly, with the weapons that we have, he's a good fit for the offense that we have. Now we are beat up on the offensive line. You know what I mean? So we'll need help with running right now. We're not running the ball as well.
He should be fine.
Well, yeah, exactly. He knows how to run for his line.
That's amazing. That's just too perfect for NFL. The Red Rocket goes back to Cincinnati against his former team with Joe Burrow in town.
Hold on, Dan. Let me correct you, man, because you made this mistake earlier. I'm going to need you to refer to him as the proper nickname. It's the Red Rifle.
My bad, the Red Rifle.
Red Rocket.
Well, see, I call him the Red Rocket.
Respect Andy's nickname, please.
Because when he throws the ball, it peters out. A rifle continues to go on forever, but he don't have that arm strength.
He's not that bad, man.
Actually, he threw a pretty nice dart to Gallup.
I'll let Trav talk about it.
To Juddy's point about him not being that bad, I agree with Aggie. If this offense around the quarterback is as good as everyone says it is about Dallas, and the respect I have for Andy Dalton as a serviceable or better than that.
Yeah, I agree.
For a lot of years of his career, he was better than serviceable.
Yeah,
he was an above average.
He went to the playoffs with Cincinnati 5 times.
If you make it 5 years in a row, you're good.
And so, from what I think Andy Dalton is and what I think Dak is, yes, Dak's better, but I don't think the drop-off is as big as people think.
I agree.
If Dalton can play to some of the, to the level he's played at at times in his career and most of his career, I think this is still a team that can win the NFC least. As bad as it is, it might only take 8 wins, 9 wins, probably definitely put you right there, if not winning, if not tied for the division. So I think Dallas will really be fine in terms of competing for the division. They already look like they weren't really going to compete for much more than that anyway. So as far as this year, I don't think it's that big of a deal. They'll still compete and be right there at the end, either win it or won't in the last weeks. So I don't think that changes too much. But I'm looking at it from like a bigger picture perspective with Dak and the contract. Obviously, coming into the year, he's on the franchise tag. Stephen Jones comes out today and says Dak's still the face of our franchise. But I'm like, Jerry didn't want to pay him what he wanted going into this year. So do you think Dak, whose agent's going to say, look at he was leading the league in passing and everything before he gets hurt. He's on record pace through 4 games, which we all know about paces through 4 games. But nonetheless, he was playing really well stat-wise. They weren't winning, but he's playing really well stat-wise coming into the injury. And then you think he's going to go in and be like, well, we understand he broke his ankle, so we'll take less money. No, they're not going to budge. They're going to, if anything, say we're sticking right with it or want more. If you look at what he was doing before he got hurt, Jerry's going to say, well, you just shredded your ankle. You think I'm now going to pay you more? So I don't know how this thing's going to get sorted out when it already couldn't get sorted out. And yeah, Stephen Jones can come out and say that all he wants, but until they put up the money that Dak wants, especially when Dak now is going to want more security, knowing I just shredded my ankle. And this could I'm not going to say easily happen again like that bad, but you know what I'm saying? It could definitely, for sure. It might not be as stable as it was, that's for sure. And so I don't know how this thing's going to work out. It really complicates things contract-wise.
So here's where I'm at with that. And I've heard Dallas and Jerry, basically getting a lot of flack and saying, they're vilifying them, saying they should have taken care of him. I'm calling BS on that. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not knocking Dak. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's very good. Dallas offered him
Aggie gave him
a contract that was 5 years, $34 million a year, basically $170 million a year with $100 million guaranteed. I think that's more than fair for the quarterback that he is, and he wanted more. He actually wanted less years, and they say he wanted less years so that he could be a free agent again to try to get a bigger contract again, basically betting on himself in that manner. Look, and I'm not, I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. But look, if he would have taken that deal, he has his $100 million guaranteed before this season, regardless, and he injures himself, and it's not that big. If he, and it looks like from all accounts he's going to be able to rehab. He should be able to come back and play. But if God forbid you get an injury and you can never play football again, if you took that money, you got your $100 million at least.
The bigger issue is what is just the overall status that these quarterbacks and any players, these big position players, think they're always trying to reset the market. And when you have that situation, it puts you in a situation like Dak's in, where it's like he probably isn't worth more than what they were offering him. To be honest, the fact of the matter is the market was going that way, and he wanted to be on the top of it because he's considered a top 10 quarterback. So the biggest issue, it's unfortunate that he got hurt, like you said, but that's my qualm with agents of these guys. I mean, look at Le'Veon Bell, look where he's at. His agent told him not to take these numbers, and now he just got released by the Jets like an hour ago. So it's like the whole resetting the market thing and trying to find your worth and reset what the worth of your position is or you as a player, to me, is just a flawed system in general.
Right. And I think these guys go in there and they listen to their agents because, they figure this guy's got my best interest. He knows the market. He knows how to get me my best possible money, but when you don't take those guarantees, when you have it on the table, you always run that risk. But that being said, obviously, the top concern is, hey, I like Dak as a person. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a team leader, and that team loves him. And obviously, we just hope that he gets better and is able to play football at a high level.
One of the things that I'm interested to see is if the Cowboys go back to Zeke more often. There was kind of some talk that he was being a little bit forgotten. Not that he actually said that, but that he was a little bit forgotten. So see if they use him a little bit more. But I think what's going to end up happening, I know that when you're like a Dallas Cowboy fan and you're in the midst of that and you're emotional, you're sitting there and you're a little bit irritated about the Dak situation. But I actually think that Dak would be worth every penny that you gave him. And I'll be interested to see if the rest of the season kind of shows that, or if the red rifle proves that anybody could go into that situation and be successful because there's so much talent on the Cowboys offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, as much as you would like to run the ball more and give it to Zeke more, the only problem is our offensive line is so beat up, and we're just a patchwork offensive line that we haven't had to deal with that in years past. We've had a very solid offensive line. We have a lot of guys missing on injury right now. We have Travis Frederick, who retired. We have not been able to run the ball as successfully this year, and we've had to rely on the pass more because of that. So I don't know, how much it's going to change the offense or not.
All right, we're done talking about teams that aren't good. So let's move on to some of the better teams. We had a couple of
Philly's now the favorite in that division, by the way. Philly's
yeah, they might be, but again, that division's terrible.
Coin toss.
So I just did.
It's
You
a
not hear
coin
me?
toss.
Teams that aren't good. Teams that aren't good. How about that SmackDown that
NFC least.
Pittsburgh laid on y'all this weekend? Not really.
Speaking
SmackDown.
about who's not good, Jonathan Vilma's announcing was terrible. Let's
Yes.
just put that out there.
We can all
Awful.
agree on that.
Yeah,
Any of the four of us would have been better.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but I thought the Sunday night game and the Monday night game was great. How about the Seahawks always finding a way to win? It annoys me to like no end. It's almost like I don't have anything. I love watching Russell Wilson play, but the way they win games, Dan, I know you love it, but just as much as you love it, I hate it. I feel like they're a freaking poker suck out every week. Minnesota had no business losing that game. They dominated it.
Yeah.
They physically punished them, ran the ball down their throats the whole game, but they find a way to lose it, which is what they're doing this year at 1-4. And then the Monday night game
That was a great game.
ended up being a great game
It
too,
was,
man. That
yeah.
Mike Williams catch to give them a shot at a field goal.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all saw that. I mean, that was one of the best catches
contested
I've seen in
one.
a
Yeah,
while.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we got a real treat with the Sunday night and the Monday night games this week. They didn't look that great on paper,
Yeah.
but man, they turned out great. And I know, I don't know what else y'all want to say about those games that are in the NFL, but I just want to say to all my Taysom Hill haters, how y'all feeling right now on a big 3rd and 4 run? Aggie, you with me this week, man?
I hear you, bro.
Hill, getting
Great.
it. I had to throw that in there. I had
just
to
wanna
throw
say
that in
this.
there because for those of you guys who don't know, Dan was texting us last night as the game was happening, and he's sending us tweets from Dan Orlovsky, who's hating on Taysom Hill being force-fed into that game, and then he
And
sends
others.
another tweet out from another guy saying that Taysom Hill being in this game is terrible. And then like 10 minutes after he sends his second or third text about it, Taysom Hill, 3rd and 4 in the game, runs a touchdown in to tie the game. They end up winning. And so I just wanted to say that because of our
And
Taysom Hill. If y'all didn't see the
They
Taysom
also-
Hill argument, if anybody out there is watching right now
You should
and
go
didn't
back.
see the Taysom Hill
back and watch
debate that
it.
we had, the episode before last, check that one out. You will enjoy going back and looking at what we actually had.
They
I'm
also
not going to drum that whole thing back up.
The Saints also had no business winning that game too. The Chargers, not just the missed field goal, but also just the things that transpired in that game. But I will say this:
I agree.
I realized why they used Taysom Hill so much. I was looking through all the tweets, and I think that I think Taysom Hill is probably like secretly nobody knows this, but I bet you he is Sean Payton's like nephew, and so he has to get him in a certain amount of plays, or his sister's gonna get mad at him probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Trav.
No, him
What
scoring
do you think about-
touchdowns too. Juddy,
Somebody gets
was
me
that a
like-
big enough spot for you? 50 seconds left in the game. They're down 7. So are you on the pay? Are you realizing now that he does get touches in big spots?
No, I totally
But, I
agree,
mean,
but I would like to
Why are
see
y'all
more,
hating on
obviously,
him
but like
making a big play?
I
don't
just
understand it.
My
I'm
thing
not hating on him.
my thing is that it boils down to an opinion thing at the end of the day. It's like I don't believe in the opinion of pulling him out, even if he's going to be successful. Just like I'm not going to tell you to change your opinion on Deontay Johnson if he runs a punt return back. It's still just because he runs a punt return back doesn't mean he's not going to hold the ball like a loaf of bread and still fumble it at big times in games. So I mean, it's bottom line. But moving on from that, we have a lot more football that we will get to. I did want to make one more mention that we did have a couple of teams that lost games. My correct pick of the Raiders, I want to shout that out, beating the Chiefs.
Hey, I picked the Titans tonight.
I actually had a friend of mine text me after he saw the graphic and said, he's like, "Are you crazy, man? No way the Chiefs lose that game." And then he texted me literally as it was over and was like, "Well, guess you were right." But so a little bit of shakeups. Two undefeateds have now lost with the Bills and the Chiefs. So it's getting dwindled.
Hey,
down
can we get a secret cam in your house, Trav, when Deontay Johnson, every time he touches the ball, can we just put a
Yes,
camera in there and just
you
watch
can.
your reaction?
Dude, I get
DJ can.
knots in my stomach every time the guy has the ball in his hands.
I actually get the same feeling though, and I don't hate the guy. Like,
I
at all.
expect a
I
fumble
get the
every
feeling.
play or a
I had so much
multiple-
excitement every time he kicked the ball. I was like, well, I'll probably get a turnover off this kickoff
Yeah.
here.
Well, he got hurt early. He got hurt early enough in the game to where it was like the nerves went away, man. He just
And then
put the
Chase
ball
Claypool-
in my guy
and Claypool,
Claypool's
yeah.
hands all day, baby.
Yeah.
We're going.
All right, so switching gears to NBA. It's obviously the modified season, the modified playoff, everything is at hand. But the Lakers did find a way to win the championship. Asterisks or not, being
Big
I root for the Lakers, but for me, it didn't feel real. So it's just one of those situations. But let's talk about LeBron's legacy a little bit here. I know he did win the MVP. Whether some people said it could have been AD, some people even said it could have been Jimmy Butler had it gone 7, even if they lost the series. So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought I'll let y'all handle some more of the legacy stuff. But I just want to say real quick, I thought I was a little disappointed the Lakers didn't kind of take care of them a little bit earlier and look more dominant. I know Game 6 they finally looked dominant, but given the injuries that the Heat had and they were already a heavy favorite, they let it go 6 games. I'm like,
Yeah, I was
I don't
surprised.
know, man. I'm just thinking to myself already the asterisks from the season, but like, I don't know. The
Lackluster.
Lakers just didn't impress me in winning the title from that level as well.
Well, the level of play for the whole, I watched a lot of the games, and just the whole level of play, just it felt like preseason and regular season games. Like nothing throughout the playoffs in basketball, at least, felt
It
like
might have been because
playoff
there's no
games.
fans.
Yeah, and that's probably
That's
why
a big
you're
part of
used
it.
to
A big part of
hearing
it.
that that hum in the background. So I don't know.
I don't want to
it's
hear
difficult.
anybody talk about LeBron's legacy. I might sound like the old guy in the room, but when you watch Jordan and you watch him play the way he did for all those years, like
Hold on,
LeBron's
I'm
going to
take a
have
nap
good.
real quick.
LeBron's going to have good stats, and he's going to do all that different stuff. And I'll give him credit for longevity and taking care of his body and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the NBA is different. They don't play defense anymore, and they just play in a different era. But I still put Jordan head and above, better leader, better champion overall at the end of the day.
Yeah, I get sick of the LeBron Jordan. I just hate comparisons in general from like eras that are just different because the eras are different. Like you said, Dan, defensively it's different. It's just in every sport. So like the quarterback era, like the quarterback debates from like guys in the 70s
Joe
to
Montana
now, it's like
versus
it's a
Brady.
totally
It's
different
like-
sport. The way they throw the ball, the amount of times they throw it, you can't compare that. So I hate that too. But I will say, just looking at his legacy now, just in its own right, not even necessarily comparing to Jordan. From, I'm wondering how much I can give him credit for this. I almost feel like he has 3.5 titles now because of how big the asterisk is. Now, I understand, the NBA played a full season essentially and things, the playoffs played out essentially how they would have seeding-wise, but it was a 3-month layoff or more. I got to believe that the Clippers wouldn't have come out and tanked the way they did. And I felt like the Clippers were the number one competition for the Lakers this year. I actually thought the Clippers would take them out in the playoffs like before the year. I thought it was either going to be – they would obviously be in the Western Finals. And I thought the Clippers would win it and eventually win it all. But even a better team out of the West, out of the East, I feel like what might have gotten there. Maybe the Bucks would have end up getting to the finals and giving them a tougher run. So I don't know. It's hard for me to give because I'm thinking I'm like, man, he just won his fourth title was his third team. Because there's almost an argument to be said if you are comparing to Jordan, like, okay, Jordan won 6, but with the same team, LeBron's taken 3 franchises to another level and gotten him there. That's like a big deal. But I almost can't give him credit for the third one yet. It's like a half of one because of the kind of shuffling that went around. So
I think the one that I like when I think about when I saw like the most impressed I've ever been with LeBron was the year when he was with the Cavs. They were down 3-1 in the series against Golden State, and they came back and won. I feel like that was the first time that I saw him exhibit like the heart that I used to see when I watched. And it has nothing to do with, I know you can't compare eras, but it was about that heart. Like he was just willing his team to win. And they didn't have the most talent on that Cavaliers team. Yeah, they had Kyrie, but it was Kyrie and LeBron. And that was basically like, and Kevin Love, but I've never been too high on him, but I'm just saying like,
He's a good piece.
He could shoot like 3-pointer, spot up shooter, but he really was never like a low post presence that was actually going to play like a solid forward position.
Well, the crazy thing is that he was a 1 when he was by himself before he came to the Cavs. He was like their best player on the team. I can't remember the team that he was on, but
anyway, that was the one. That was the one championship where I felt like he actually was the best player on the court. He imposed his will. He played on both sides of the court, and like he really showed like that championship heart. But when he was with Miami, it feels like he went down there and teamed up with a bunch of good players. And, this championship has an asterisk beside it because, they didn't really play a full season. They went in the bubble, and you never know if the Clippers would have had a full season to kind of gel together. And
you just don't know. You don't know what really happened with the regular.
I think we have to wait another year. I think at the end of the day, we have to wait another year and see what happens next year. They'll have an off season together. They'll probably pick up a couple other pieces as well.
But even next year, I don't know if we'll know next year. I mean, they don't even know when the season's going to start. They're not going to start the season until after January. I mean, what's that going to be? I mean, are they going to play a full season? Are they going to do the bubble again?
Before we switch, let me ask you this, Trav. If they start the season late, if they keep all the same format, the games, everything, if just the season is transplanted to like 3 months starting later as opposed to the regular, would you still consider that a credible season?
Yeah, absolutely. If they play, even if they, the 95 season, I think was like a 55 game season for in the NBA. And so like looking back on it and even looking back on, and when we look at this 20 years from now, will we even remember that much of it? We probably won't, but right now we do. Anyway, if they do close to 82 games and they just push it back, but they have fans at least for like the back half of the year and into the playoffs and the home stadiums in front of fans for the playoffs with a 60 to 70 game at least season, I'll call it, close enough and no asterisks. But if it's, bubble and no fans, that's enough right there. And then if they do, shorten the season, because to me, they gotta start thinking about trying to get back on track for when this thing it does blow over, not have that season be like pushed back and affected. Like even if next year is another just shortened year so they can start by November roughly next year. Because I think by then, hopefully, we would at least hope that things will be pretty normal.
I think they could cut the season down by 25 games maybe and try and run it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're going to wrap up the NBA there. So that's the end of the season. So now we just wait to see what happens when they start the next season. But we're going to switch gears to something we haven't touched base on yet on our show. But we are big fans here. Trav and I specifically, we play a lot of tennis over the summer. We'll get out there, and he usually beats me. It's pretty close matches, but he tends to come out on top. But we are big Rafa Nadal fans, and he actually got his 20th major title. The French Open, which was delayed. So usually the French Open is played around like Memorial Day weekend in May. But they had to push it back, obviously because of COVID. And I think personally, just my 2 cents is that I think that the time off, the extra time to train, the time not playing in these tournaments, he didn't play in the US Open, he didn't travel for that. I think all that extra preparation time really paid off, and it showed. I mean, he was dominant. There was talk of the announcers saying that maybe Djokovic was hurt or maybe he, this and that. But I think that Rafa just came out ready to prove a point and to get his 13th French Open.
Yeah, man. I've never seen him dominate Djokovic like that. They usually play really competitive matches. He came out on fire, and I think it was a combination of Rafa was on his game that day, and also Djokovic was really off his game. I've never seen Djokovic look that kind of lethargic.
He had the 5-setter previously.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I just think Djokovic was it was a combination of Djokovic being off that day and Rafa really being on. It was great to see it though. I know that's a big rivalry, and I'm a big Rafa fan, so to watch that was awesome. And then you get into he's got 20 now with Federer. Who's the best between Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic? And to me, I'll be honest about that conversation. I love Rafa, but objectively, I honestly don't know how you separate either of those three. They're all so good. I don't think you can clear cut say there's one. No, this guy is the best. I want to say Rafa's the best because I really think that barring injury, he would have more than 20 and Federer would have a couple less and even Djokovic would have a couple less because if he was always legitimately healthy, some of those matches that he played against Federer and Djokovic, he probably wasn't at full health.
He runs his body so hard that
he's missed 8 majors. I was reading about this the other day. He's missed 8 majors over his career due to injury. Djokovic has missed 1. Federer has missed, I believe, 2. Yeah. So I think that's before the now they're not counting the U.S. Open that Federer just missed and Rafa just missed because even though that one I think Federer wasn't missed one, they're kind of counting that because of COVID too. Yeah. Because that's why Rafa didn't play in that one. So not even counting that one. So he's had to deal with more injuries. And so I want to say that as a Rafa fan, but at the same time, I don't know that I could clear cut say if he was healthy, he would have more. We don't know that. Yeah. And so it's just what a great era of tennis. I honestly don't know who is the best amongst them and whoever ends up with the most may not even be the best. I don't know. It's just they're all tied. I think I just don't know how you split them.
That's
up.
The thing too. Is
really good.
We've been lucky enough in our peak of fanness, and fandom to be able to watch them at their height. And the thing that I always kind of go back to, like you said, is so hard to tell because really, Federer was kind of coming into his prime a few years before Rafa was, and then Rafa came in and they were in their prime together for many years. But then Djokovic came in when they were kind of getting towards the end of their prime. I mean, who knows? Maybe Federer won one a year ago or so, didn't he? I think he won a major a year ago.
Yeah, a couple of years, 2018, I think.
Yeah, and then Rafa obviously won the French Open. So, maybe he's still in his prime. I don't know. But I feel like Joker came into his prime a little bit later. So it's kind of hard to tell because they aren't all playing in the same prime of their skill set, and there's a few years differing. I think Federer is 38 now.
No, Federer is 39, Rafa is 34, and Djokovic is 33.
Okay, I know Djokovic and Rafa are 1 year apart, but
yeah,
it's crazy to see. I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens next year. It should be another crazy year, depending.
I feel like Rafa can still add to at least his at the French Open.
Yeah, the French Open's in 6 months.
Yeah,
they play it all the time. You know what I mean? So he can win another one back to back.
I think the Australians before that. I think that's the first.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know. Hopefully Federer's back for that.
He had some serious setbacks from surgery. That's why.
Yeah, I heard that. I think that's the last title he won was the Australian when he won his last one. So
it was.
Yep.
Good job, Rafa. Way to make us proud.
It was exciting. It was a good day. Rafa won, and then the Steelers pulled out a victory despite their terrible secondary play in the second half. And then
that defense has got to improve, or they're going everywhere this year.
Yeah, we'll be getting into that, I'm sure, over the coming weeks as the season develops. But before we wrap this show up, we did have some a little bit of personal stories to share. Sometimes we'll lead off with that, but we wanted to kind of put it in here at the end. I'm gonna let Dan get to his, but first I want I just wanted to put a little shout out there for one Greg Ferry for his stellar pitching performance out there. We play softball. Obviously, we've brought it up before, and he's kind of our reserve pitcher, and so our pitcher was not able to make it. And Dad's come out the last 2 weeks and put on a show. So we were able to tie 1 week when we probably could have split with him had we had him in the whole game. But you never know if the ball's going to come with the middle, so we got to preserve the old man's safety.
Yeah, well, the old man came in and went like 6 for 8 too in the 2 games. So he's also coming out and like pretty much being our best hitter in spot duty. So yeah, man, shout out to the old man, still getting it done at his old age.
He's the sole reason that we were able to even compete in those games and play, let alone get a tie on one of the weeks and get a win. We won 9-3 in a slow pitch softball game.
Is he also the one that said that he would get that fly ball that jumped up and got Trav in the middle of the face there?
He is the one.
He's
that
the one
said that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy we're alluding to.
He was the guy we were alluding to.
So.
He saw the real talent when
now
we were
everybody
3 outfielders out there.
Hearing his stats, man, I'm starting to believe that he would have got that. Maybe he probably wouldn't have even needed anyone to call him off or anything. He would have just got it.
All right, we've heard enough of that, Dan. Tell us your story about you and your dad, how your dad burned you up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I do a little bit of esports where I do a little NASCAR, which everyone makes fun of me because I'm a NASCAR fan. But so me and my dad, I got him into the league because he's a big NASCAR fan as well. So we both have like a little rig. We have like a wheel, we have shifters, we have pedals, and we like legitimately race in the league with other people.
Hardcore.
And so over the summer, I got him like kind of into the league, showed him how to do everything, and we had been racing a lot, but now he finally joined the league. So we started the race, and me and him were just kind of doing a little trash talk back and forth or whatever. But anyway, we get to the end of the race, about 12 laps to go. I'm in the lead, and we were supposed to be working together because we're at Daytona and we're drafting together, and it's supposed to be like father son. Dale Earnhardt Jr., just like working together here.
Bonding moment.
And we're heading into the pits, and sure enough, Dale Earnhardt takes Dale Earnhardt Jr. and slams him into the wall. So I end up going into the wall, and
he was on you like stank on poo.
Oh my gosh, he was all over me. I was like, "Yo, does your brake not work?" "Oh, I didn't see you there. There was a guy to the outside." "No, you just wanted to wreck me. Like you just don't have any control of your car." Anyway, I go back to 6th. He comes out of the pits in first place, obviously, because he was in 2nd. Then he wrecked me getting into the pits. Comes out in 1st. I end up coming back to the front and almost getting past him. I was like an inch away from being able to drop down to the low side. He ends up winning the race, which is just freaking the biggest beginner's luck I've ever seen in my life. And so
you had to have a little cool down, didn't you?
Did he get a black flag?
No, I was petitioning to the governing body as hard as I could.
I will sign that petition.
Yeah, and I mean it's on Twitch, so like you go on there, you can see it clear as day.
Ooh, he clipped it. Somebody clipped it.
Yeah, he wanted to get an instant replay on it or something like that. He wanted to check it out.
He wanted to save it. He wanted to save it for his memoirs.
Yeah, you call it beginner's luck. You call it beginner's luck, but it sounds like it was pretty intentional on him just wrecking you out to win.
I like he knew what he was doing.
Luck.
He was trying to say after the fact that he felt bad, and I was just trying to be gracious in defeat because at the end of the day, I was happy that he won, and whatever. But dude,
we'll have to get an update for your next.
I have one question, Dan. I have one question. Yeah. When is your next race?
My next race is tomorrow night at Dover. If anybody wants to check out the league, I told them I'd give them a little plug. It's at Fast Family Racing on Twitter or Facebook. You can check it out, and they are always posting when the races are happening. And
I'll get in that league next year, and I'll show you boys what's up.
Yeah, Juddy's got NASCAR Heat 5. He can hit it up. So anyway,
and the only follow-up question is: if you get the opportunity to win at the expense of taking out your dad, will you take the shot?
I will put my front bumper on his back bumper. But I'm not going to go in there intentionally like take him out. I'm a big believer in racing clean and doing it the right way if I can do it. So, but if it's like a short track, I will put my bumper on the back of his bumper and I will move him up the track. But I'm not going to just go in there and just like railroad him into the wall.
Like Dad always says, if it ain't rubbing, it ain't racing. So
that's right, absolutely.
Should be good. But that's all we got for you guys today. Thanks for joining us. I know we had a pretty jam-packed episode, so hopefully you guys made it this far. Be sure to hit subscribe and like on our YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more information on the podcast and little clips that we'll share for you guys. All right, thanks.